I like puzzles. It's a puzzle. I'm good at puzzles. It's a puzzle. I'm good at puzzles.
Yeah, this doesn't make much sense in context either. This is Bonekickers. You have been warned. Episode 4, The Cradle of Civilization, starts in ancient Persia, where a vaguely Greek-looking rider is riding around for some reason, and what looks like a rabbi is hiding something in a pit. Now in this shot we can see that the rider is not far from Babylon, the capital of the ancient Persian Empire. This is supposed to be during Alexander the Great's conquest of Persia, and the guy who's hiding something is trying to keep it away from the invading Greeks. So why bury it so close to your fucking capital that's just fallen? Why? Because Bonekickers cares not for logic. So the guy goes into a room and takes the thing he's hiding out of its box, only to put it back into its box a second later, and then puts it on a shelf. Seeing as it took him 3 seconds to get there, this place can't be that far from the surface. So this guy is hiding something important from invaders by putting it in a box, on a shelf, in a basement, a stone's throw from the capital that's already falling. I wish you could see my face, I'd palm it. So what's in the box? What's he hiding? Oh, don't worry, they know why you watch this show. It's something stupid. Not that one. The guy then gets killed by a monster from the 1989 classic Doctor Who serial, Battlefield.
Ace, I think it's time for Plan B.
We run?
Yes!
So then we're 2,300 years later and it's modern day Iraq, being played here by a sandpit in England. We have American soldiers in uniforms that I'm pretty sure are inaccurate, and a guy in a keffiyeh. Because the Middle East is the only place you find someone in a keffiyeh. So insurgents attack a minibus labelled Press, even though there were American soldiers about and they could have shot at them. This guy runs off, still under fire, even though even more American soldiers have turned up and are shooting back at the insurgents. He falls down a hole and ends up in an underground room, and here he proves the people of the Middle East are even worse at finding stuff than the people of medieval Bath, because he comes across the body of the rabbi-looking guy and the box. It's not just a case that no one picked up the box because it looked like nothing, the guy's skeleton still has his precious pendant on it. Oh, and since he fell into this room, landed on stone, and is not injured, it must only be 10 to 15 feet at most from the surface. Rooms this close to the surface, complete with open holes and located really close to population centres, do not go unfound. Did you like that bit of archaeology? Good, because that's the last you'll see of it in this episode. You see, when you put on a show about archaeologists, you don't actually expect to see any archaeology, do you? Well, you should know better. Besides, what they did in the last 3 episodes can only barely be called archaeology. So back in England, we get a look at the guy who found the box. It's this guy from an episode of Torchwood. I think his whole career is playing token Americans on British TV shows. There are probably worse ways to make a living. He's living in a trailer and he's paranoid. He's just escaped from Iraq, where he nearly died at least once, and is only paranoid once he reaches England. Why? Because the script said so. Of course, because this is Bonekickers and the only stupid thing that they don't do is spaceships powered by love, he is proved to have been right about being paranoid. Finally we cut to the gang, sitting together at night and using an ancient toothpick to discuss different cultures' accomplishments.
4,000 years ago the Egyptians were building cities of gold, the Greeks temples of marble. What were we doing? We were picking our teeth.
Yeah, if you knew anything, you'd know that the oldest known human habitation still in existence is called Skara Brae. It was found on an island off the coast of Scotland and was inhabited 12,000 years ago. And they had drainage. What were the ancient British doing 12,000 years ago? Oh, only making a settlement with drainage that still stands to this day. What were the Egyptians and Greeks doing back then? I have no idea, because nothing they built has survived that long. And whatever they were doing, I can safely say it didn't involve drainage. These things come in cycles. In another 12,000 years, Bermuda will be ruling the world and the UK will look a lot like Arkansas. A proper historian doesn't care where the awesome history comes from because they appreciate it all. Fuck you, Magwild.
What about Stonehenge?
The Pantheon is impressive. The pyramids at Giza. The Nabatean temples carved into the rock at Petra are impressive. You want to compare these wonders to a rockery off the A303?
You are not even pretending to be a historian anymore. Fuck you, Magwild, and everyone who looks like you and whoever named you because your name is fucking stupid. And to top it off, she throws the ancient toothpick on the ground like it's nothing. You are a warped creation, talking to holes, seeing racist depictions of Africans once you're drugged by psychic powers, insulting the scientific method, and actively trying to change reality to fit your own crazy, insane view of the world. If you weren't the main character in a TV show, you would have been locked up a long time ago, or at least been lynched by a gang of angry historians with good taste. You are Ann Coulter if she'd studied archaeology instead of wingnuttery. Magwild, fuck you! And you are insulting the ancient Celts. You, Miss, totally wanted to have necrosapphic sex with Boudica last episode. And both these episodes were written by the same man. You can't even keep your bad writing consistent with your own bad writing. So Parton randomly watches TV and finds out there's a cultural delegation from Iraq in the country, and they're visiting Bath because there's a massive Babylonian artifacts collection. Why the national news cares that they're going to Bath, and why Bath's museum has a massive Babylonian collection, I have no fucking idea, because Bath is not that important. The delegation includes the small child from the pre-credits bit, who's one of those irritating child geniuses that turn on the Japanese so much, and an ex of Magwild's who studied at university with her and Derga. So we're at the museum, and Magwild's ex is staring at carvings on a block of stone. You'll be disappointed to know that at no point does he talk to it. This woman arrives, and she's got something to do with the tour, and then Mastiff arrives.
Can I tempt you to recite the talk you gave in Cairo on the Ishtar Gate? It would coincide with the relaunch of my old DVD. Well, you may remember when this arch was first installed here.
In which you describe Babylon as Alexander the Great's bisexual stop-off point.
Okay, apart from the massive fucked-upness of a guy doing stuff about Alexander the Great and using bisexual as an insult to describe the Babylonians, apart from the silliness of a man campered in a row of tents who will later wear a skirt using bisexual as an insult, apart from all that bullshit, this is not the only time the episode will feature casual biphobia. So an innocent man almost gets his arm broken to introduce the mental bodyguard of the little girl genius. In a real show, the bodyguard would now be leaving the show because he'd be being arrested. Back in the lab, one of the team uses their sonic screwdriver on a bone. Since these people can tell people's race by their diet when there's no diet to test, using mere Earth technology, I shudder to think what they could achieve with Gallifreyan technology. Magwild probably takes a TARDIS back in time to set everything up so our insane theories are proven right. What? It makes more sense than anything the show has thrown at us. So Magwild's ex turns up and complains about archaeological thieves stealing artifacts. That's all fair enough, but then he reveals that he's looking for a guy who discovered the underground room. He's looking for a guy who discovered artifacts that no one knew existed for 2,300 years. Unless the guy told them what he'd found, how the fuck would he know about it? Almost as though he knows what I just said, he reveals that he doesn't know the name of the guy, who he is, where he is, or what he found. He only knows that some guy found something somewhere and then went somewhere else. Bonekickers, you're not making this make any more sense. Magwild's ex immediately mentions that he thinks that the stuff found was originally from the mythical Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the only one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world that they don't have any hard evidence that it ever existed.
Perhaps from the Hanging Gardens?
Come on, the Hanging Gardens are a myth.
Thus showing why he and Magwild were attracted to each other. So the guy who was in Torchwood goes to a guy who secretly buys his finds off him to pass on to rich collectors. From the guy playing the buyer, I get the feeling that they tried to hire Ian McNeice but couldn't afford him. Buyer guy is astounded by the thing in the box and knows that it's important. It must be important, it looks like a vase that someone forgot to hollow out, with runes on the front. He then tries to buy it cheap. Torchwood guy tells him to piss off and then sells him the pendant. Because the fat guy wouldn't give enough money for his unhollowed out vase, the guy from Torchwood decides to sell it himself. Given that he has it illegally and he's a professional seller of stolen artifacts, you'd think that he'd have a subtle way to sell them all worked out.
This baby's going on the website. If Max won't pay, somebody will.
He has a website where he sells his rare, stolen, precious, one-of-a-kind artifacts.
Next up, we have a story from the UK where a professional thief who steals artifacts for people who then sell them on to rich collectors decided to cut out the middleman and sell them to the collectors himself. Unfortunately, he did this by setting up a website to advertise the stuff he had to sell. Stuff he acquired illegally. complete with pictures of one-of-a-kind artifacts which are being searched for by governments of the countries they were stolen from. The fuck is wrong with you? What do you do for an encore? White slavery on eBay?
With no real reason to do it, Parton randomly gives his opinion on what happened to Babylon.
And then Alexander ransacked it in 331 BC. Uptight little bisexual.
Yeah, that's bullshit, and please, stop with the fucking use of bisexual as an insult. The rest of the scene is about Parton indicating that he not only has psychic powers, but that they're so crap that he can't use them to work out what's going on. Thank you for that pointless scene. So Magwild's ex calls his brother, who's an important Iraqi media baron, in New York, and they talk about how important the non-hollowed out vase is, and how he feels bad about keeping stuff from Magwild, because she's the sort of person you really want to tell important information to. Parton randomly finds a news story about a possible meteorite that might have landed in Assyria 4,000 years ago. Wow, a meteorite! Several of them happen every day! Why do you find this news story? Well, they've dug it up after being told to find info in Babylon during the time of Alexander the Great. So as a historian who knows the time period they're dealing with is the time of Alexander the Great, and was asked for info in Babylon, she decided to get info on a meteorite hit that might have happened some 1,700 years before that. But this isn't just typical Bonekickers random stupid shit like the website. Oh no, because the meteorite is important. Why? Because it brought special intergalactic space metal to Earth which could be used to forge an amazing weapon, called Excalibur. Want answers? Explanation in 2 episodes time, and yes, it is true. Actually, no, you don't need answers. There was a meteor, and intergalactic space metal was used to forge Excalibur 4,000 years ago. Surprised?! The fat guy, whose real name is Max Garris, is killed that night by a camera wearing 3D glasses. Magwild gets a call from her ex to go to Max Garris's place, which she does, even though in an earlier scene that I skipped talking about to save my sanity, they talked about how they didn't have Max Garris's address.
Max Garris, you know?
No, it doesn't ring any bells.
Hopefully I can find an address from this name.
Even if her ex found out where he lived off screen, he doesn't actually tell her where it is before he hangs up on her. Now I wonder how they managed to spend at least a day trying to figure out where this guy lived, if he's that good at hiding. So the guy's dead, and we're supposed to suspect that Magwild's ex killed him because, given that he was killed by something extremely short with a POV that looked like 3D glasses, it clearly couldn't have been him. There's graffiti on the wall. Apparently it's the symbol of Iraqi occultists who worship Tiamat, the ancient Babylonian god of chaos. Yes, in a country where almost everyone is a Muslim, a country that I think has made it near illegal to be of a religion that's not Islam, Christianity or Judaism, a country with a massive problem with psycho-religious fundamentalists, also has a problem with Satanists! A problem that's big enough to warrant the guy knowing what their symbol is. To make this worse, the ex is actually terrified of them. Thousands dying each year because of the Abrahamic religions, and he's terrified of the Satanists.
I wanna be evil. I wanna be mad.
So the ex goes into a rant about how shit the Europeans' ancestors were compared to his.
You see these? Babylon had street lighting when your ancestors were still running around in bearskins. You know, we were the first people to irrigate our land, to map the stars and name them. We created the alphabet. The days of your week are taken from our days.
Yes, because Thor's day is so very Arab.
And look at us now.
This is basically the rant of a supremacist who's finding out that he's not quite as superior as he'd like. So someone mentions the worship of Tiamat near Parton, and he goes into a speech about Tiamat and the ancient Babylonian god of good, Marduk.
Tiamat.
Oops, I've set him off.
He talks about how there are now lost Babylonian religious scriptures on a non-hollowed out vase, and you can guess where this is going.
A tablet that has never been depicted. The holy writings of a Babylonian god.
Except you showed a depiction of it a few seconds earlier. So Magwild confronts her ex, and he reveals that he found pictures of it online, and even though he's a high-up guy in the Iraqi government and has a media baron for a brother, he can't track down the guy who put the pics up, and he hasn't even handed the pictures over to the police. He's decoded as much of the runes as he can, and he reveals that it's basically the Bible code, but it's right about shit.
You can't really believe this is a genuine prophecy.
You are telling someone off for having crazy whacked out theories, Magwild! You! He thinks that the tablet could unite Iraq because Muslim countries have such a wonderful history of respecting their pagan heritage. But he doesn't just want to unite the country, he thinks that he could get the country to convert to the worship of the ancient Babylonian god Marduk.
You'll get a whole nation of Muslims to follow the god Marduk?
Marduk, Yahweh, Allah, there's so many different names, but it all boils down to one god.
I trust I don't need to explain why this plan is stupid. Outside the X's hotel room, the amazing Technicolor Evil Dead POV shot is back. Viv continues with her research by watching a documentary Daniel Mastiff made on Alexander the Great. She's a historian and getting her research from a documentary made for the general public. And the guy who made the documentary works literally down the hall. Idiot personality is firmly in charge of this episode. Erica enters and exclaims that Magwild's in danger. He has no reason to know that she's in danger, but they all just get their coats and go off to save her, even though they don't know where she is. So Magwild and X work out who the thief is using very stupid logic and realise that a snake is suddenly in the hotel room with them. Yes, that's the POV monster, a snake. I had no idea that they saw the world as though it was an old-style 3D movie. And the last time we saw the POV monster's POV, it had reached the closed door of the hotel room. So how the fuck did it get in? And how the fuck did it know to go there? And if someone's using it to kill targeted individuals, then why did they let it slither around in the hall? So the snake is crap CGI, and the two get on the bed because a snake that can open doors will obviously be stopped by a fucking bed. As you can see, snakes that can open doors can also fly. If this is going to be used by cultists of any pagan god, it should have been Quetzalcoatl. So they leave the room and... What the fuck was that guy doing in his boxers with the door closed behind him? Oh, fuck it, it's Bonekickers. So everyone else arrives and the snakes follow them out of the room, meaning that it can most definitely open doors. Or they didn't close the door behind them and therefore deliberately put people in danger.
No sudden moves.
Bad special effects may known to kill people if they move.
So what do we do? Stand it till it dies of boredom?
Pardon says fuck it and stops it. Yes, it's a real way to stop snakes, but it's pretty unlikely that he could have managed it, since it was going pretty damn fast and his previous experience with fighting was limited to chucking a book at someone and being beaten up by a matron. But if that was the stupidest thing on display, I'd be coming right now. Now the gang go to where the thief is holed up, without Barton because they've left him holding the snake. Literally. They're also being followed by the little girl's mad arm-breaking bodyguard, who really should have been guarding the little girl's body, but what the fuck. The team break into the guy's trailer and look for the vase. Of course the team will not get in trouble with the law for this. He comes back and finds them and points a gun in their face, and Erga decides that now is the perfect time to steal the vase.
Mate, you stole it first, we steal it second, call it quits, you can keep the box.
Luckily for the team, and unluckily for the audience, a snake attacks the guy from Torchwood. How it got in there, and why it waited till now to attack, I have no fucking clue. They run off and don't call an ambulance. Snake bites usually take a little while to kill someone. They could be saving him right now, but they've decided not to. They spot the bodyguard as they leave the trailer and decide that he must be working for the cultists, because why else would he be following them instead of looking after the little girl who he's being paid to look after? After they return to the city, we get a shot of the thief finally dying. That's another death on your tally, Magwild and crew. So back in the lab, they take the vase, the one-of-a-kind 2,300-year-old artifact, and they put it in acid and then shine a pink light on it. This creates a 3D model.
Science! It's fantastic!
There's some shit about a code and part of the vase that they can't read, and Erga says both the stupidest and smartest thing in the show so far.
We should call the police.
The little girl notices the key for the code on the vase is on a wall that just happens to be at the museum because she happens to be watching Daniel Mastiff's documentary, which just happens to have a close-up of the wall.
What a stroke of luck!
And it just happens that the wall wasn't cleaned properly before being put on display, so they can't just read them from the documentary. They need to break into the museum to clean the markings off, and therefore got the little girl to break the code on the vase, which was written by an ancient pagan god and will bring peace to Iraq. And this might be the stupidest thing in the show so far. So to distract everyone from the museum, they have a press conference about Mastiff's documentary and Iraq and cultural understanding and stuff, because lots of reporters is what you need when you're breaking into a museum to clean and copy an exhibit. And why don't they just walk into the museum and ask for access to the wall? Because this is Bonekickers, bitches. The press conference also gives Mastiff a chance to dress up as Alexander the Great. Why? That's got something to do with him having to be seen as a joke by the audience or something. So they break in and act like fucking secret agents or cat burglars while they're doing what they could have just asked nicely to do.
Why are we doing this?
Because you're dickheads. After all that, the little girl then solves the puzzle by putting the code from the wall and the code from the vase directly on top of each other and then moving one a little bit. They then use graphics to explain what's going on because they think the audience is as stupid as they are. They might have been right. By now the series had roughly 6 viewers, me and 5 retards in Norfolk who thought they were watching the Olympics. So an American, who we haven't seen until this point, kidnaps the little girl as Magwell's ex reads the words and realizes that the little girl is the chosen one of Marduk, the Babylonian god of good, and is prophesied to unite Iraq in peace.
I am the chosen one.
Because the people of Iraq are going to follow a female chosen by a pagan god. So the bodyguard turns up again, turns out he's not a baddie, and followed the team because he thought they were putting the little girl in danger. Of course, to investigate this, he had to first put the little girl in danger by leaving her. So this woman, who's been working for the baddie and making it look like there are Babylonian cultists running around, takes the vase off Magwell's ex in exchange for getting the little girl back. A little later on, this scene happens.
Hang on. R8, Rachel Highgrove.
No. Surely she would never be that... stupid.
And suddenly the writing's not just insanely stupid, but insanely lazy. So the ex puts a gun against the head of the woman working for the baddies, and Magwell tries to destroy the precious artifact to save her life. Magwell and Erga then reveal that the shadowy big baddie who throughout the episode only talked to his people through the phone is Magwell's ex's brother, who till then only talked to him over the phone. Of course, his brother, who was in New York until a moment ago, suddenly turns up and lets himself be seen trying to hang a little girl. Why is he doing that? Because he's a media baron and is making money out of the problems in Iraq, and because of that, the little girl must die. And no, he doesn't believe that she's the chosen one of Marduk. Of course, for a media baron, he has no idea that being seen trying to hang a little girl in front of multiple witnesses might damage his business a bit. Though to be fair, if Rupert Murdoch did it, I'm quite sure Fox would find some way to blame the little girl. So the brother gives up for literally no reason at all, and the ex and the little girl are going back to Iraq, even though they were supposed to be in the middle of a UK tour. And the other people on the tour, who haven't been seen since the very start of the episode, what the hell happened to them? Well, I think the writer forgot they existed. So back at the lab, Magwell becomes convinced that someone's broken in and musters the best threat she can think of.
I should warn you. I've got an Etruscan spear in my hand and I'm not afraid to use it.
Yes, destroy the ancient spear instead of using something that's liable not to shatter if you hit someone with it. Of course there's no one there. Thank you for that scene, Bonekickers. And then we end on a shot of a sword, because they're being oh so subtle about Excalibur. This episode has the least amount of painful history in it, but it makes up for that by having so much more painful everything else. The whole thing was inane, stupid, confusing, insane, and worst of all, boring. This doesn't deserve a mark out of 10. That was Bonekickers. You were warned.
First World War, Mark I. I think it's been buried.
Oh.
Clear the area! Run! Run!
Oh my god.
No!
Marmite.
Meg Wild. Becker.
Well, they're Germans. Doesn't have to make sense.
The man on the right. He's that body there.
This isn't just a war drill, it's a war crime.
We've all got them.
These men were obsessed with Joan of Arc.
Dr. McWild, I need to have access. Danker.
Hell of a thing being round here.
Well, I'm a hell of a ride.